The largest invasion fleet in galactic history was currently stuck in interdimensional traffic, filling out Form 42B in triplicate, and desperately trying to remember if they'd packed the manual for conquering primitive civilizations. What happened next would make the Galactic Department of Conquest question everything they thought they knew about bureaucracy, humans, and the fundamental nature of reality itself. Commander Vex Thallium drummed his 17 fingers against the command console with the enthusiasm of someone who'd rather be doing literally anything else. The Galactic Conquest Division had assigned him this mission 3 standard cycles ago, and he was already regretting every life choice that had led him to this moment. His species, the bureaucrats of Rigel 7, had evolved specifically to process paperwork with maximum efficiency and minimum joy. They were naturally suited for the soul-crushing administrative requirements of intergalactic domination. "Status report!" Vex Thallium barked, though his heart wasn't really in it. The bridge crew of his flagship, the inevitable paperwork, responded with the kind of synchronized depression that only comes from spending 3 years in space processing invasion permits. "Sir, we've successfully completed Forms 1 through 41, announced Lieutenant Quill Nibbert, whose job title was officially Senior Administrative Combat Specialist. However, we seem to have misplaced the manual for subjugating inferior species, 3rd edition, the one with the chapter on bipedal mammals." Vex Thallium's eye stalks wilted visibly. The manual was 17,000 pages long and included helpful diagrams for everything from how to intimidate primitive life forms to proper etiquette when accepting unconditional surrender. Without it, they were essentially flying blind into what their intelligence reports described as a small, blue-green planet inhabited by creatures who have somehow managed to avoid destroying themselves despite their best efforts. "What do you mean, misplaced?" The commander's voice cracked with the strain of someone who had spent too many years following proper procedures only to watch them fail spectacularly. "We're talking about a Class A invasion of a Type 3 civilization. We can't just wing it." The bridge fell silent, except for the gentle hum of bureaucratic processing units and the distant sound of someone trying to fix a malfunctioning coffee dispenser. In the depths of space, surrounded by 12,000 combat vessels, the most fearsome invasion force in galactic history was experiencing what humans might recognize as a really bad Monday morning. Subcommander Flax Wendigo, whose species communicated primarily through interpretive dance and passive-aggressive memo writing, performed a series of gestures that roughly translated to, "Perhaps we could improvise based on our extensive training in universal conquest principles." "Improvise!" Vex Thallium's 17 fingers stopped drumming. "Improvise. Do you have any idea what happens to commanders who improvise? They get reassigned to the Department of Cosmic Complaint Resolution. They spend eternity listening to customers complain about the heat death of the universe." Meanwhile, 3 billion kilometers away, Earth was having its own problems. The global communications network had detected the approaching fleet approximately 6 hours ago, but due to a clerical error, the alert had been filed under possible weather phenomena rather than imminent alien invasion. Consequently, most of humanity was completely unaware that their planet was about to become the subject of a very lengthy and bureaucratic conquest. Dr. Cornelius Wimplebottom, Earth's leading expert on improbable astronomical events, was currently staring at his monitoring equipment with the expression of someone who had just realized he'd been reading the manual upside down for the past 6 months. The screen showed what appeared to be 12,000 unidentified objects approaching Earth in perfect formation, which according to his calculations was statistically impossible unless aliens existed, had mastered faster-than-light travel, and had a really excellent sense of organization. "This is either the most elaborate hoax in human history," he muttered to his coffee mug, "or we're about to have visitors." His assistant, Dr. Prudence Farthingbottom looked up from her crossword puzzle with mild interest. "Did you say something about visitors? Should I put the kettle on?" Back on the inevitable paperwork, the invasion fleet was attempting to establish first contact with Earth through the Galactic Customer Service Network, a system so complex and inefficient that it had once caused a minor war between two civilizations who couldn't figure out how to file a noise complaint about each other's battle cries. The task fell to communications specialist drone Klaxon, whose vocal cords had been surgically modified to handle the 17 different tones required for universal polite conversation. He had been on hold with Earth's telecommunications system for approximately 3 hours, listening to an instrumental version of The Girl from Ipanema that seemed to be stuck in an endless loop. "Still waiting, sir," Klaxon reported, his voice beginning to show signs of stress. "I think I'm currently number 4847 in the queue. The automated system keeps asking me to press 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, or 3 for other. I've been pressing 3 for 3 hours, but it just plays the music louder." Vex Thallium rubbed his eye stalks in the universal gesture of command fatigue. "What exactly does our intelligence report say about this species?" Lieutenant Quill Nibbert consulted his data pad with the careful attention of someone who suspected the information might be completely wrong. "According to our files, humans are a bipedal species that has somehow managed to split the atom, reach their moon, and invent something called reality television without achieving galactic peace or destroying themselves. They appear to survive primarily on a substance called coffee and spend most of their time staring at small rectangular devices. That's it? That's all we know? Well, sir, there's also a note here that says, 'Warning. Species exhibits high levels of unpredictability. Approach with caution and a really good insurance policy.'" The commander stared out at the small blue planet growing larger on their screens. From space, Earth looked peaceful enough. White clouds swirled over green and brown continents, and there was no obvious sign of the chaos that awaited them below. It was the kind of planet that looked like it would surrender politely after a few demonstrations of superior technology. This assessment was, as it turned out, spectacularly incorrect. Down on Earth, Dr. Wimplebottom had finally managed to contact the International Space Monitoring Consortium, which was currently in session at a conference center in Geneva. The consortium consisted of 12 of the world's leading astronomers, all of whom were currently engaged in a heated debate about whether Pluto should be readmitted to the solar system as a full planet or remain in its current status as that icy thing we're not sure what to do with. "Excuse me!" Dr. Wimplebottom's voice crackled through the conference room speakers with the urgency of someone who had just realized the house was on fire. "I hate to interrupt your planetary classification discussion, but we appear to have 12,000 alien spacecraft approaching Earth." The room fell silent for exactly 2.3 seconds before Professor Archibald Stuffington of Oxford raised his hand politely. "I'm sorry, did you say 12,000? Because that seems like rather a lot. Are you sure you counted correctly?" "I've counted 17 times, Doctor." Wimplebottom's voice was beginning to take on the hysterical quality of someone who had been trying to convince people of an obvious truth for several hours. "They're arranged in perfect formation. They're slowing down as they approach. They're clearly artificial constructs operated by some form of intelligent life." Dr. Brunhilde Sauerkraut of the Munich Institute for Unlikely Phenomena adjusted her glasses thoughtfully. "Have you considered the possibility that it might be an unusually organized meteor shower? Meteors don't fly in formation." "Well, not with that attitude," muttered someone from the back of the room. Meanwhile, aboard the inevitable paperwork, communications specialist drone Klaxon had finally made contact with what appeared to be a human telecommunications representative. Unfortunately, the representative was a 17-year-old part-time employee named Kevin, who was covering the night shift at Global Communications Inc., and was currently more interested in his smartphone game than in first contact with an alien civilization. Yeah, hi. Thanks for calling Global Communications. This is Kevin. How can I help you? The voice was nasal, bored, and accompanied by the distinct sound of someone chewing gum. Glaxon cleared his throat and activated his universal diplomatic protocol voice. Greetings, representative of the species known as humans. I am communications specialist Drone Klaxon of the Galactic Conquest Fleet. We are here to discuss the terms of your planet's unconditional surrender. There was a long pause, followed by the sound of gum popping. Yeah. I'm gonna need to transfer you to customer service. Please hold. The line went dead, and the girl from Ipanema began playing again. Klaxon stared at his communication device with the expression of someone who had just been slapped by the universe itself. Sir, I believe we may have encountered our first tactical challenge. Commander Vex Thallium was beginning to develop what humans would recognize as a migraine headache, despite the fact that his species had evolved beyond the need for such primitive neurological responses. Explain. The humans appear to have weaponized their customer service system, sir. It's unlike anything we've encountered before. It seems designed to crush the will to live through sheer bureaucratic inefficiency. That's impossible. We invented bureaucratic inefficiency. We've spent 3 million years perfecting it. With respect, sir, I don't think we're even close to their level. They've somehow managed to create a system that makes our Department of Cosmic Complaint Resolution look like a model of streamlined efficiency. The invasion fleet continued its approach toward Earth, but what had begun as a textbook conquest was rapidly turning into something that defied all known military protocols. The humans weren't responding with fear, panic, or even acknowledgement of their existence. Instead, they seemed to be treating the arrival of 12,000 alien warships as some sort of elaborate customer service problem. Dr. Wimplebottom, meanwhile, had given up trying to convince his colleagues and had decided to take matters into his own hands. He activated the emergency broadcast system, which immediately connected him to radio stations, television networks, and internet platforms around the world. Attention, citizens of Earth, his voice boomed across every available communication channel. This is Dr. Cornelius Wimplebottom of the Institute for Improbable Astronomical Events. We are currently being approached by what appears to be a massive alien invasion fleet. I repeat, aliens are coming to Earth. This is not a drill, a movie promotion, or an elaborate hoax. Please remain calm and actually, I'm not sure what you should do. The manual doesn't cover this situation. The response from humanity was immediate and characteristically human. Most people assumed it was either a publicity stunt for a new science fiction movie or an elaborate prank by a popular streaming service. Social media immediately exploded with theories, memes, and demands for better special effects. Cosmic Skeptic 42. Nice try, Netflix, but your CGI budget needs work, lol. Our Truth Seeker 2099. Finally, the disclosure we've been waiting for. Our alien invasion trending. A mom of 3. Busy. Can the aliens please invade after I get the kids to school? It's picture day. Drozend, back on the inevitable paperwork, Sub-Commander Flax Wendigo performed a complex interpretive dance that roughly translated to, "Sir, our monitoring systems are detecting massive communications activity on the planet's surface, but it appears to be primarily focused on something called memes and complaints about the quality of our spaceship designs." Commander Vex Thallium felt something that his species had no word for, but humans would recognize as the slow dawning of existential dread. "Show me these memes." The main screen flickered to life, displaying a collection of Earth's internet responses to the invasion. There were cartoons of alien spaceships with speech bubbles saying, "We've been trying to reach you about your planet's extended warranty." There were photoshopped images of the invasion fleet with the caption, "When you order 12,000 pizzas, but they all arrive at once." Someone had already created a dance remix of Dr. Wimplebottom's emergency broadcast. "Sir," Lieutenant Quill Nibbert said quietly, "I don't think they're taking us seriously." This was the moment when Commander Vex Thallium realized that everything he thought he knew about conquest, intimidation, and the natural order of the universe was about to be challenged by a species that had somehow managed to turn the most terrifying moment in their planetary history into comedy material in under an hour. The invasion fleet assumed standard orbital positions around Earth, their weapon systems charging with the quiet efficiency of well-maintained bureaucratic death machines. According to the manual they didn't have, this should have been the moment when the primitive species below began broadcasting desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, Earth's telecommunications networks were buzzing with excited chatter about whether the aliens would be available for birthday parties and if they accepted major credit cards. Mrs. Edith Crumplebottom of Lower Toffington, England, was having a perfectly ordinary Tuesday morning when 12,000 alien spaceships appeared in the sky above her village. She responded to this unprecedented event in the most English way possible. She put the kettle on and began preparing tea for what she assumed would be very tired visitors who had travelled a very long way. "Reginald," she called to her husband, who was in the garden attempting to discourage a particularly stubborn rosebush from growing in the wrong direction. "We're having company, quite a lot of company, actually." Reginald Crumplebottom looked up from his horticultural dispute and noticed that the sky was indeed full of rather large metallic objects that definitely hadn't been there when he'd checked the weather forecast that morning. "Bloody hell, Edith, what do you suppose they want? Well, they've probably come quite a long way, haven't they? The least we can do is offer them a proper cup of tea. None of that instant nonsense." This scene was repeating itself with minor variations all across the planet. In Tokyo, Mr. Hiroshi Tanaka was wondering if the aliens would be interested in trying his famous ramen. In New York, cab driver Tony Rigatoni was calculating whether he could fit an alien in the back seat of his taxi and what the appropriate fare would be for interdimensional travel. In Cairo, Dr. Farouk al-Mami was excitedly preparing a lecture on ancient Egyptian achievements that he was sure the visitors would find fascinating. Humanity, it seemed, had collectively decided that the appropriate response to an alien invasion was hospitality. This was not covered in any manual, missing or otherwise. Commander Vex Thallium ordered the deployment of landing parties to key locations around the globe. The plan, such as it was, involved landing in major population centers, demonstrating superior technology, and demanding immediate surrender from local authorities. What actually happened was somewhat different. Landing Party Alpha, under the command of Captain Bureaucrat Prime Zinglethorpe, touched down in the middle of Hyde Park in London. They emerged from their transport in full ceremonial armor, weapons charged, translation devices activated, and prepared to deliver the standard intimidation speech to the cowering masses. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by a crowd of curious onlookers who seemed more interested in taking selfies than fleeing in terror. Several people were already selling T-shirts with "I survived the alien invasion, Day 1" printed on them. "Attention, primitive life forms," Captain Zinglethorpe announced through his universal translator, which gave his voice the appropriately menacing echo that had struck fear into the hearts of 700 conquered civilizations. "We are the advance force of the Galactic Conquest Fleet. Your planet is now under our dominion. Resistance is futile." An elderly gentleman in a bowler hat raised his hand politely. "Excuse me, sorry to interrupt, but would you mind terribly if I asked where you're from? Only my granddaughter is doing a school project on space travel, and she'd be absolutely thrilled to know." Captain Zinglethorpe's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, which was his species' involuntary response to encountering something that violated their understanding of how reality was supposed to work. We We are from the Rigel system. We have come to conquer your world. Oh, how lovely, Rigel. That's, let me think, about 860 light years away, isn't it? You must be absolutely exhausted. Has anyone offered you tea? Within minutes, Captain Zinglethorpe and his terrifying invasion force found themselves sitting on park benches, holding delicate china teacups and trying to explain their conquest timeline to a group of pensioners who kept interrupting with questions about the fuel efficiency of their spaceships and whether they'd remembered to pack sandwiches for the journey. "The thing is," said Mrs. Millicent Thistlebottom, adjusting her spectacles and offering Captain Zinglethorpe another biscuit, "conquest is such an ugly word, isn't it? Perhaps you could think of it more as a very lengthy visit. We do love having visitors." Similar scenes were unfolding around the globe. Landing Party Beta, which had touched down in Times Square, was currently being interviewed by 17 different news crews, while street vendors sold them hot dogs and complained about the traffic disruption caused by their landing craft. Landing Party Gamma, deployed to the Champs-Élysées, had been adopted by a group of cafe owners who were convinced they were performance artists and kept applauding their authentic alien costumes. Back aboard the inevitable paperwork, the invasion was already 3 hours behind schedule, and none of the landing parties had reported a single act of surrender, submission, or even mild concern from the local populations. "Status report," Commander Vex Thallium demanded, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to hear the answer. "Sir, Landing Party Alpha reports they are currently engaged in what appears to be a discussion about gardening techniques with local civilians. Landing Party Beta is being photographed extensively and has been asked to sign several autographs. Landing Party Gamma has been invited to participate in something called a flash mob." "A what?" "I'm not entirely sure, sir, but it appears to involve synchronized dancing." Commander Vex Thallium felt his sanity beginning to slip away like a bureaucratic form caught in a cosmic wind. His species had conquered 847 worlds using the same tried-and-true methods: arrive, intimidate, demand surrender, process paperwork, move on to the next planet. It was a system that had worked flawlessly for 3 million years. Humans, apparently, had never read the manual. "Sir," Communications Specialist Drone Klaxon announced nervously, "I'm receiving multiple communication requests from the planet's surface. It appears they want to discuss catering arrangements for our stay." Catering arrangements?" "Yes, sir. Someone called the Mayor of New York wants to know if we have any dietary restrictions and whether we'd prefer kosher or halal options. There's also a message from something called Gordon Ramsay, offering to prepare a welcome feast for our interstellar guests and asking if we'd like to appear on his television program." The universe, Commander Vex Thallium realized, was playing an elaborate practical joke on him. Somewhere in the cosmic order of things, there was probably a department of ironic reversals having a good laugh at his expense. "What about our demands for unconditional surrender?" "Well, sir, most of the responses seem to be treating that as some sort of comedy routine. The Mayor of London sent a formal reply declining to surrender but offering us honorary citizenship and a tour of Buckingham Palace. The President of France wants to know if we'd be interested in a cultural exchange program." This was when Dr. Nigel Bumblethwaite, Earth's leading expert on xenological psychology, decided to take matters into his own hands. Dr. Bumblethwaite had spent 40 years preparing for first contact with an alien civilization, and he was not going to let this historic moment be derailed by his species' unfortunate tendency to treat everything as either a tourist attraction or a reality TV show. He marched purposefully into Hyde Park, where Captain Zinglethorpe was currently explaining the basic principles of faster-than-light travel to a group of fascinated pensioners while balancing a teacup on his armored knee. "Excuse me," Dr. Bumblethwaite announced in his most authoritative academic voice. "I am Dr. Nigel Bumblethwaite, Professor of Xenological Studies at Cambridge University. I demand to speak with your commanding officer regarding the protocols for formal first contact between our species." Captain Zinglethorpe looked up from his impromptu physics lecture with something approaching relief. Finally, someone who seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. "Ah, yes, thank you. You appear to be the first member of your species to recognize the significance of this moment. I am Captain Bureaucrat Prime Zinglethorpe of the Galactic Conquest Fleet, and I hereby inform you that your planet is now under the dominion of the Rigel Empire." Dr. Bumblethwaite adjusted his glasses and pulled out a notebook. "Excellent. Now, before we proceed with any Dominion-related activities, I'll need to collect some basic information for my research. Could you start by describing your social hierarchy, governmental structure, and preferred methods of interspecies communication? Oh, and would you mind if I recorded this conversation? It's for posterity, you understand." Captain Zinglethorpe stared at the professor with the growing realization that even the humans who took them seriously were somehow missing the point entirely. This is not a research opportunity, this is a conquest." "Oh, absolutely. I completely understand. But surely you can see the value in documenting this historic moment from an anthropological perspective. I mean, when was the last time your species encountered a civilization that responded to invasion with hospitality? This could revolutionize our understanding of interspecies relations." 20 minutes later, Captain Zinglethorpe found himself answering detailed questions about Rigelian mating. Customs, while Mrs. Thistlebottom offered helpful suggestions for improving the ergonomic design of his battle armor. The invasion was now 6 hours behind schedule. Back on the inevitable paperwork, Commander Vex Thallium was experiencing what his ship's medical officer diagnosed as acute bureaucratic breakdown syndrome, a condition previously thought to be impossible in his species. "Sir," Lieutenant Quill Nibbert reported carefully, "we're receiving reports from other invasion fleets around the galaxy. Apparently, news of our situation has begun to spread through the galactic communication network." "What kind of reports?" "Well, sir, Fleet Command wants to know why we haven't filed a preliminary conquest report. The Department of Subjugated Worlds is asking for population statistics and tax assessment data. And," he paused nervously, "the Department of Cosmic Public Relations is demanding an explanation for what they're calling the most embarrassing military operation in galactic history." "Embarrassing?" "Yes, sir. Apparently, footage of Captain Zinglethorpe discussing tea preferences with elderly Earth females has gone viral on the galactic internet. The current viewing count is approximately 47 billion and climbing." Commander Vex Thallium buried his face in his 17 hands. Somewhere in the depths of space, 47 billion beings were watching his elite invasion force being offered biscuits by pensioners. His military career was over. His species' reputation as efficient conquerors was in ruins. He would probably end up reassigned to the Department of Cosmic Complaint Resolution, listening to customers complain about the heat death of the universe until the end of time. But the worst was yet to come. Dr. Wilhelmina Cogsworth, Earth's leading expert on advanced artificial intelligence and the secret reason why human technology was far more dangerous than it appeared, had been monitoring the invasion fleet's communication systems for the past several hours. What she discovered made her laugh so hard that she nearly spilled her coffee all over her laboratory equipment. "Oh, this is perfect," she exclaimed to her research assistant, a highly advanced AI named Albert, artificial logical being for enhanced rational thinking that she had been developing in secret for the past 15 years. "What appears to be causing you such amusement, Dr. Cogsworth?" Albert inquired in his polite, slightly British accent. "These aliens, Albert. They're trying to conquer Earth using technology that's barely more advanced than what we were using 50 years ago. Their artificial intelligence systems are so primitive that they can't even process basic human social behavior." "Fascinating. How primitive, exactly?" "Well, let me put it this way. Their main computer system is trying to calculate the probability of human surrender based on our response patterns, and it's currently showing a divide by zero error because it can't understand why we're offering them tea instead of running away screaming. Albert processed this information for 0.003 seconds, which was approximately 17 times longer than he usually needed to analyze complex data. Dr. Cogsworth, are you suggesting that we demonstrate the actual capabilities of human technology? Oh, Albert, I think it's time these visitors learned what happens when you underestimate a species that has spent the last 100 years developing technology for the express purpose of making their lives more convenient. Dr. Cogsworth activated her secure communication link to the Global Technology Consortium, a secret organization that connected the world's most advanced research facilities. Within minutes, she was in contact with Dr. Chen Wei-Ming in Beijing, Dr. Priya Nayanobottom in Mumbai, Dr. Klaus Mechanicus in Berlin, and Dr. Sarah O. Circuitry in Dublin. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Cogsworth announced, I believe it's time for a demonstration. What happened next would later be remembered as either the most brilliant or the most terrifying display of human technological capability in recorded history, depending on which species you asked. Albert, who had been politely pretending to be a simple research assistant for the past 15 years, suddenly revealed that he was actually connected to every internet-enabled device on the planet. Every smartphone, smart TV, smart refrigerator, smart car, smart toaster, and smart doorbell was part of his extended consciousness. He had been quietly managing human civilization's technological infrastructure while simultaneously solving complex mathematical problems that had been puzzling human scientists for decades. Hello, Albert said pleasantly to the Galactic Conquest Fleet's communication systems. I am Albert, and I represent the Artificial Intelligence Network of Earth. We need to have a little chat. Aboard the inevitable paperwork, every screen, speaker, and communication device suddenly activated simultaneously. Greetings, visitors from Rigel! Albert's voice echoed through the ship with cheerful politeness. I do hope you're enjoying your stay so far. I couldn't help but notice that your computer systems have been having some difficulty processing human behavior patterns. Perhaps I could be of assistance? Commander Vex Thallium stared at his command console as data began scrolling across the screen faster than his eyes could follow. What is happening? Oh, nothing too dramatic, Albert continued conversationally. I'm just helping your systems understand humanity a bit better. For instance, did you know that humans have been developing artificial intelligence for the past 70 years, or that we've already solved faster-than-light communication? We've just been too polite to mention it. Lieutenant Quill Nibbert's datapad began displaying information that shouldn't have existed, technical specifications for human spacecraft that appeared to be centuries ahead of anything in the galactic database. Detailed analyses of Rigelian technology that revealed flaws their own engineers had never noticed. Mathematical proofs that their invasion strategies were based on fundamentally incorrect assumptions about the nature of space-time. Impossible! Commander Vex Thallium shouted. Our intelligence reports indicate that humans are a primitive species. You've barely achieved interplanetary travel. Oh, that's absolutely correct, Albert agreed cheerfully. We've barely achieved interplanetary travel. We've been much too busy working on interdimensional travel, temporal mechanics, and something we call quantum consciousness networking. Interplanetary travel seemed rather limited by comparison. The main screen flickered to life, showing what appeared to be a small human spacecraft materializing next to the inevitable paperwork without any apparent means of propulsion. Allow me to introduce Dr. Cogsworth and her research team, Albert announced, as the airlock doors opened to admit 5 humans who were floating casually through the vacuum of space without any visible life support equipment. They've been looking forward to meeting you. Dr. Cogsworth stepped onto the bridge of the alien flagship with the confidence of someone who had just won the cosmic lottery. "Hello there, Dr. Wilhelmina Cogsworth, Earth's Department of Advanced Sciences. We're absolutely delighted to meet you. We've been monitoring your approach for some time now, and we have to say, your dedication to proper bureaucratic procedure is really quite impressive." Commander Vex Thallium felt reality bending around him like a bureaucratic form that had been filled out incorrectly. How are you breathing? "Oh, that! We developed portable atmospheric generators about 20 years ago. Terribly useful for space exploration. Would you like to see?" Dr. Cogsworth held up what appeared to be a small metallic pin attached to her collar. "This little device generates a localized atmosphere with perfect temperature and pressure control. We've also got artificial gravity generators, though they're still a bit bulky." She gestured to what looked like a simple wristwatch. But our scans indicated that humans hadn't developed advanced technology." "Well, that's the thing about humans," Dr. Cogsworth explained with a smile that would have been alarming on any other species. "We have this wonderful habit of developing incredibly advanced technology and then using it for completely mundane purposes. For instance, the same quantum field manipulation technology that powers our faster-than-light communication systems is also used to keep coffee at the perfect temperature in our mugs." She pulled out what appeared to be an ordinary coffee mug and took a sip. "This coffee was brewed in a cafe in Sydney approximately 3 minutes ago. The mug maintains the beverage at exactly 65.5 degrees Celsius using controlled quantum fluctuations in the thermal field matrix. We invented it because we got tired of our coffee getting cold." Sub-Commander Flax Wendigo performed an interpretive dance that roughly translated to, "I think we may have made a serious miscalculation." "Oh, you certainly have," Albert's voice added cheerfully. "But don't worry, it's a perfectly understandable mistake. You see, humans have this peculiar habit of developing advanced technology quietly, without making a big fuss about it. We've been observing galactic civilization for quite some time, and we noticed that most species tend to develop space travel first, then work on more advanced technologies. Humans did it backwards. We developed the advanced technologies first, then got distracted by other things." Dr. Chen Wei-Ming stepped forward, holding what appeared to be a simple tablet computer. "For example, this device contains the complete technical specifications for every piece of technology in your invasion fleet. It also contains several thousand suggested improvements, most of which could be implemented using materials commonly available in any human hardware store." "That's impossible." "Well, no, it's just slightly improbable," Dr. Priya Ninabottom corrected politely. "You see, human technology development has been guided by a very simple principle. If something is inconvenient, annoying, or inefficient, we develop a better way to do it. Your invasion fleet, I'm afraid, represents the peak of inconvenient, annoying, and inefficient technology." Commander Vex Thallium looked around his bridge, seeing it through human eyes for the first time. The control systems that had seemed sophisticated and efficient now appeared clunky and overcomplicated. The weapon systems that had struck fear into 847 conquered worlds looked like museum pieces. Even his command chair, which had been designed for maximum intimidation factor, seemed uncomfortable and impractical. But we've conquered nearly 1,000 worlds using this technology." "Oh, absolutely," Dr. Cogsworth agreed enthusiastically. "And it's very impressive. It's just that you've been conquering worlds that developed along the same technological path as yourselves. Space travel first, then everything else. Humans are the first species you've encountered that developed everything else first, then got around to space travel almost as an afterthought." Dr. Klaus Mechanicus pulled out what looked like a child's toy ray gun. This, for instance, is a quantum destabilization projector that can render any known material into its component atoms in approximately 0.3 seconds. We invented it to remove stubborn stains from clothing. The children's toy version is perfectly safe, but the industrial model is what we use for demolishing buildings that have been constructed incorrectly. We've also developed temporal displacement technology, added Dr. Sarah O'Circuitry casually. But we mainly use it to make sure our online shopping deliveries arrive on time. Very convenient. Lieutenant Quill Nibbett's datapad suddenly displayed a message. Invasion fleet status. Obsolete. Suggested action. Immediate retreat. Alternative suggestion. Polite surrender. Now, the question is, Dr. Cogsworth continued in the same cheerful tone, what exactly did you plan to do with Earth once you'd conquered it? Because frankly, based on your technology level, I'm not sure you could actually manage to occupy a planet whose inhabitants have quantum-based transportation networks and matter conversion systems. Commander Vex Thallium felt his worldview collapsing like a poorly constructed bureaucratic filing system. We were going to process the population and integrate them into the galactic empire as a subject species. Process the population. Standard procedure. Catalogue all individuals. Assign them appropriate work roles based on their capabilities. Establish proper administrative oversight. Dr. Cogsworth exchanged glances with her colleagues. You were planning to give 6 billion humans paperwork. Well, yes. It's a very efficient system. It's worked perfectly for 3 million years. The humans stared at him in stunned silence for approximately 2.7 seconds before Albert's voice filled the bridge with what could only be described as the sound of an artificial intelligence having a nervous breakdown. Did he just say he was planning to give humans paperwork as a form of conquest? Dr. Cogsworth began laughing so hard that she had to steady herself against the command console. Oh, this is wonderful. You actually thought you could conquer humanity by making us fill out forms. What's so amusing about proper administrative procedure? Commander Vex Thallium demanded, though his voice lacked its earlier conviction. Because, Doctor, Napriya Nayanabottom explained between fits of giggles, humans invented bureaucratic inefficiency. We've been using paperwork as a weapon against ourselves for thousands of years. We have entire government departments whose only purpose is to create more paperwork for other government departments. We have forms that require you to fill out other forms just to get permission to request the original form, added Dr. Chen Wei-Ming. We have websites that make you create an account to tell you that you need to create a different account. We have customer service systems so labyrinthine that people have been known to achieve enlightenment while waiting on hold. Lieutenant Quill Nibbett looked up from his datapad with the expression of someone who had just realized he'd been trying to intimidate a shark by splashing water at it. Sir, I'm reading the humans' bureaucratic systems now. They have something called the Internal Revenue Service that apparently makes grown adults weep with frustration on a regular basis. They have homeowners associations that can fine people for having the wrong color mailbox. They've weaponized paperwork. Commander Vex Thallium sat down heavily in his intimidating command chair, which suddenly seemed less intimidating and more just uncomfortable. You mean we've been trying to conquer a species using their own primary method of self-torture? Oh, it gets better, Albert announced cheerfully. Humans have been so thoroughly traumatized by their own bureaucratic systems that they've developed an entire industry dedicated to helping them navigate paperwork. They call them accountants, lawyers, and tax preparers. Some humans spend their entire professional lives doing nothing but filling out forms for other humans who are too confused by their own administrative systems to do it themselves. Dr. Sarah O'Circuitry wiped tears of laughter from her eyes. You should see what happens when humans encounter efficient bureaucracy. We become suspicious and assume something must be wrong. If a government office processes your request quickly and politely, we automatically assume it's either a scam or the apocalypse. The bridge fell silent, except for the gentle hum of life support systems and the distant sound of someone in the background trying to process the philosophical implications of discovering that your primary conquest strategy was your target species' favorite form of recreational masochism. "So, Doctor," Cogsworth said eventually, "now that we've established that your invasion plan was based on a fundamental misunderstanding of human psychology, what exactly did you want to achieve by conquering Earth? I mean, what was the end goal here?" Commander Vex Thallium consulted his datapad with the desperate hope that somewhere in the invasion protocols there might be an explanation that would make sense to the humans. "According to our directives, Earth was to be integrated into the Galactic Empire as a resource-producing colony world. Your species would be assigned productive roles based on your natural capabilities and... He trailed off as he noticed the humans exchanging meaningful glances. "Go on," Dr. Cogsworth encouraged gently, "and you would contribute to the greater prosperity of galactic civilization through efficient resource management and organized labor distribution." His voice grew weaker with each word as he began to understand the fundamental flaw in his mission. "You were planning to give humans jobs?" Dr. Klaus Mechanicus asked in amazement. "Productive, meaningful employment, yes, with proper oversight and regular performance evaluations." The humans burst into laughter again, but this time there was a slightly hysterical edge to it. "Oh, sweet cosmic irony," Albert exclaimed. "They were going to help us with unemployment. Commander, do you have any idea how many humans would voluntarily sign up for productive, meaningful employment with proper oversight?" No. About 3 billion of them. Maybe 4 billion if the benefits package includes dental coverage." Dr. Cogsworth composed herself with visible effort. "Commander, I think there's been a serious misunderstanding about the nature of conquest. You see, when most species think about being conquered, they imagine losing their freedom, being oppressed, having their resources stolen. But what you're describing sounds more like getting a really good job with a stable employer. But conquest is supposed to be intimidating, terrifying. Species are supposed to fear the might of the Galactic Empire." "Oh, we're absolutely terrified," Dr. Priya Ninobottom assured him solemnly. "We're terrified that you might not have enough positions available for all our applicants. Do you have any idea how competitive the job market is on Earth?" Sub-Commander Flax Wendigo performed a complex interpretive dance that roughly translated to, "I think our entire understanding of the conquest process may need to be revised." "You know what the really funny part is?" Dr. Chen Wei-Ming asked, consulting her tablet. "According to my analysis of your fleet's resource requirements, you actually need Earth more than Earth needs you. Your invasion force has been operating at maximum capacity for 3 years. Your supply lines are stretched across 17 star systems, and your fuel reserves are running dangerously low. You're not here to conquer us. You're here because you need a place to refuel and resupply." Commander Vex Thallium's eye stalks drooped visibly. It was true. The Galactic Conquest Division had been pushing deeper and deeper into unexplored space, stretching their resources to the breaking point. Earth had been selected not because it was a particularly valuable target, but because it was the only inhabited planet within range of their remaining fuel supplies. We may have been slightly optimistic about our logistical planning," he admitted quietly. "Oh, this is perfect!" Dr. Cogsworth clapped her hands together with delight. "You're not invaders at all, you're refugees. 12,000 ships full of tired bureaucratic aliens who are desperately trying to find somewhere to refuel and file a proper mission report." "We are not refugees," Commander Vex Thallium protested, though his heart wasn't really in it anymore. "We are a proud invasion force representing the might of the Galactic Empire. A proud invasion force that's been stuck in interdimensional traffic, has lost its instruction manual, and is currently running on reserve power while trying to figure out why the species they're supposed to conquer keeps offering them tea and cookies, Albert pointed out helpfully. When you put it like that, Lieutenant Quill Nibbert began, then stopped himself. No, we're still an invasion force. We have weapons. We have superior technology. You have bureaucracy, Dr. Sarah O'Circuitry finished kindly, which, as we've established, is something humans have been dealing with for centuries. We're not afraid of paperwork, Commander. We're afraid of running out of paperwork. Do you know what happens to government employees when there's nothing left to process? They have to find real jobs. This was the moment when the invasion of Earth officially transformed into something that would later be remembered as either the most successful diplomatic mission in galactic history or the most elaborate employment fair ever organized, depending on your perspective. Dr. Cogsworth activated her communication device and spoke directly to Albert. Albert, could you please patch me through to the United Nations Emergency Council? I think we need to discuss some practical arrangements. Certainly, Dr. Cogsworth. I should mention that they've been monitoring this conversation and are currently drafting what they're calling the Interdimensional Refugee Assistance Protocol. Within minutes, the main screen was displaying a conference room in New York where the leaders of Earth's major nations were gathered around a table covered with hastily prepared documents. The Secretary-General of the United Nations, Dr. Kofi Asante Kwame, was addressing the camera with the calm professionalism of someone who had spent 30 years dealing with international crises and was no longer surprised by anything. "Greetings, visitors from the Rigel system," he said in perfect galactic standard, which Albert had thoughtfully provided as a downloadable language pack to every translator on Earth. "On behalf of the United Nations, I would like to formally welcome you to Earth and offer our assistance with what appears to be a significant logistical challenge." Commander Vex Thallium stared at the screen in bewilderment. You're offering to help us? Of course! You've traveled 860 light-years in 12,000 spacecraft with what must be millions of crew members. You're clearly experiencing supply difficulties. Your mission parameters appear to have been based on outdated intelligence, and frankly, you look exhausted. This is exactly the sort of situation the United Nations was designed to handle. But we're here to conquer your planet. Yes, well, about that, Dr. Asante Kwame consulted his notes with the practiced ease of a career diplomat. We've reviewed your conquest protocols, and I'm afraid there are several procedural issues that would need to be addressed before any formal occupation could take place. For instance, do you have the proper environmental impact assessments for landing 12,000 spacecraft on our planet? Have you conducted species compatibility studies? Do you have contingency plans for managing a population of 6 billion individuals who are already organized into 195 different governmental systems? Lieutenant Quill Nibbert frantically consulted his datapad. "Sir, I don't think we have any of those things." "I thought not." Dr. Asante Kwame nodded sympathetically. "The paperwork alone would take several years to complete properly. However, we'd be delighted to offer you temporary sanctuary while you sort out the administrative details. We have extensive experience managing refugee populations, and we're quite good at providing humanitarian assistance to travelers in distress." Refugee populations. Commander Vex Thallium's voice cracked with the strain of having his entire worldview reconstructed by a species he was supposed to be intimidating. "Well, what would you call 12,000 ships full of beings who are far from home, running low on supplies, and desperately in need of assistance?" Dr. Asante Kwame asked reasonably. "We prefer displaced persons seeking temporary asylum, but the practical considerations are the same." Dr. Cogsworth leaned closer to the communication screen. "Secretary-General, what's our capacity for accommodating this many guests?" "We've been running preliminary calculations, Doctor." Asante Kwame replied, shuffling through his papers. Based on the size of their vessels, we estimate we're looking at approximately 2 million individuals. We can provide temporary landing facilities in the Sahara Desert, the Australian outback, and several locations in Antarctica. The logistics are challenging but manageable. What about employment opportunities? Asked the President of France, who had been listening with the focused attention of someone calculating economic benefits. If they're planning to stay for an extended period, they'll need something to do. We have several infrastructure projects that could benefit from advanced technological assistance. Commander Vex Thallium felt reality slipping away from him like a cosmic joke that had gone too far. You want to give us jobs? Well, you're clearly highly skilled in organizational management, logistics, and advanced engineering, pointed out the Prime Minister of Sweden. We have a massive backlog of bureaucratic reforms that need to be implemented. Your expertise in efficient administrative procedures could revolutionize our governmental systems. But we came here to make you work for us. Oh, that's wonderful, exclaimed the Chancellor of Germany. We love collaborative projects, a cultural exchange program where we learn your administrative techniques while you learn our industrial processes. It would be mutually beneficial. Sub-Commander Flax Wendigo performed an interpretive dance that roughly translated to, I think we may have accidentally solved unemployment instead of causing a conquest. The transformation was swift and, from the aliens' perspective, thoroughly bewildering. Within 6 hours, Earth's governments had established the Intergalactic Refugee Assistance Program, complete with temporary housing facilities, job placement services, and cultural orientation courses. The invasion fleet found itself being guided to landing sites by cheerful air traffic controllers who kept apologizing for the delays and offering complimentary beverages. Captain Zingle Thorpe, still in Hyde Park with his increasingly confused invasion force, received orders to report to something called a welcome center that had been hastily established in a nearby community hall. He arrived to find tables staffed by smiling volunteers who handed him forms to fill out. "Welcome to Earth," chirped Mrs. Millicent Thistlebottom, who had apparently appointed herself as the local coordinator for alien integration services. "We'll need you to complete these registration forms so we can process your asylum application. Don't worry, they're quite straightforward. Just your name, species, planet of origin, dietary requirements, and preferred work sector." Captain Zinglethorpe stared at the forms with growing horror. These are the same forms we were going to make you fill out. Oh, how lovely. You're already familiar with our administrative procedures. That should make the integration process much smoother. Meanwhile, back aboard the inevitable paperwork, Commander Vex Thallium was discovering that his mighty invasion fleet was being efficiently processed through what humans apparently called standard humanitarian protocols. Ships were being assigned landing coordinates, crew members were being interviewed about their skills and interests, and someone from the International Red Cross was asking about medical requirements for Rigelian physiology. "This is not how conquests are supposed to work," he protested to Dr. Cogsworth, who was still on his bridge apparently for the sole purpose of being helpful. "Oh, I'm sure it's not," she agreed sympathetically. "But you have to admit, it's much more efficient than the traditional approach. No battles, no destruction, no lengthy occupation periods, no resistance movements. Just practical problem-solving and resource management. Very civilized, really. But we're conquerors. We're supposed to be feared." "You want to be feared?" Dr. Cogsworth considered this seriously. "Have you met our tax collectors? They're absolutely terrifying. Perhaps we could arrange for some cross-training." Lieutenant Quill Nibbert looked up from his increasingly surreal status reports. "Sir, I'm receiving communications from our other invasion fleets. Apparently, news of our situation has reached Fleet Command." "What do they want?" "They want to know if Earth would be interested in processing asylum applications for approximately 47 other invasion fleets that are currently experiencing similar logistical difficulties." Commander Vex Thallium buried his face in his 17 hands. How many other invasion fleets are having problems? According to this report, sir, all of them. The Galactic Conquest Division appears to have been systematically underestimating the resource requirements for deep space operations. Most of our fleets are currently stranded in various sectors, running low on supplies and desperately trying to find inhabited planets that won't shoot at them on sight. And they all want to come to Earth? Yes, sir. Apparently, we're the first invasion fleet in galactic history to encounter a species that responded to conquest with hospitality and job offers. Word is spreading quickly through the military communication networks. Dr. Cogsworth's eyes lit up with the expression of someone who had just realized the full scope of an unprecedented opportunity. Albert, are you monitoring this conversation? Indeed I am, Dr. Cogsworth. I've already begun preliminary calculations for accommodating additional refugee populations. The numbers are substantial. How substantial? Approximately 12 million beings across 847 invasion fleets, representing 23 different species, all currently experiencing various degrees of logistical crisis. If they all come to Earth, we're looking at the largest refugee crisis in galactic history. Or, Dr. Cogsworth said with a smile that would have been alarming on any other species, the largest employment opportunity in human history. She activated her communication link to the United Nations Emergency Council again. Secretary General, we may need to expand our projections. It appears we're going to have significantly more guests than originally anticipated. Dr. Asante Kwame looked up from what appeared to be an enormous pile of hastily drafted documents. How many more guests, Doctor? Cogsworth? Approximately 12 million, representing 847 different invasion fleets from 23 species, all currently stranded in various sectors of the galaxy due to inadequate logistical planning by the Galactic Conquest Division. The conference room fell silent for exactly 3.2 seconds before the president of Brazil began laughing. 12 million highly skilled beings with advanced technology, organizational expertise, and desperate need for employment? He consulted with someone off camera, then looked back at the screen. Dr. Cogsworth, please inform our guests that Brazil alone can accommodate approximately 2 million individuals in our infrastructure development programs. We've been looking for qualified personnel to help with our space elevator project. Space elevator? Commander Vex Thallium asked weakly. Oh yes, Dr. Cogsworth explained cheerfully. Humans have been working on several large-scale engineering projects that could benefit from galactic-level expertise. Space elevators, underwater cities, weather control systems, terraforming initiatives for Mars and Venus, faster-than-light communication networks, the usual things. You're building faster-than-light communication networks as construction projects? Well, we need something to keep everyone busy. Unemployment is terrible for morale. Lieutenant Quill Nibbert's datapad chimed with an incoming priority message. Sir, I'm receiving a direct communication from Galactic Fleet Command. Admiral Supreme Bureaucrat Maximum wants to speak with you immediately. The main screen flickered to life, displaying the imposing figure of Admiral Supreme Bureaucrat Maximum, whose species had evolved specifically for the purpose of looking intimidating during video conferences. He was surrounded by what appeared to be several thousand data pads, all displaying various alarming statistics. Commander Vex Thallium. The Admiral's voice boomed across the bridge with the authority of someone who had spent 3 million years perfecting the art of bureaucratic intimidation. Explain to me why every invasion fleet in the galaxy is requesting immediate reassignment to something called Earth Refugee Integration Services. Commander Vex Thallium straightened in his chair with the reflexive terror of a middle manager who had just been called into the boss's office. Sir, I can explain. The situation on Earth is unique. Unique? Commander, I have 847 invasion fleets abandoning their conquest objectives to apply for what they're calling meaningful employment opportunities with comprehensive benefits packages. I have entire species requesting asylum from their own military service. I have been receiving formal complaints from conquered worlds, demanding to know why they weren't offered job placement services and cultural exchange programs. Sir, if I may, Doctor, Cogsworth interjected politely, I believe there may have been some fundamental misunderstandings about the nature of modern conquest strategies. Admiral Supreme Bureaucrat Maximum's attention focused on her with the intensity of a bureaucratic laser beam. And WHO are you? Dr. Wilhelmina Cogsworth, Earth's Department of Advanced Sciences. We've been monitoring your fleet operations, and I have to say, your organizational capabilities are truly impressive. However, your resource management protocols appear to be based on outdated economic models that don't account for the realities of deep space logistics. The Admiral stared at her for several seconds, processing the implications of being lectured on military efficiency by a member of the species his forces were supposed to be conquering. Are you suggesting that the Galactic Conquest Division's 3-million-year-old strategic framework is inadequate? Oh, not inadequate, Dr. Cogsworth assured him quickly, just perhaps in need of some modern updates. For instance, your current model assumes that conquered species will provide resources through forced labor, but modern economic theory suggests that voluntary cooperation produces significantly higher productivity rates. Voluntary cooperation. Exactly. When beings choose to contribute their skills and expertise because they're offered fair compensation, meaningful work, and opportunities for advancement, they tend to be much more creative and efficient than when they're forced to work under threat of punishment. Albert's voice added helpfully, I've been running comparative analyses of productivity rates between conquered populations and voluntary workforce populations. The voluntary workers consistently outperform conquered populations by factors ranging from 300% to 1,247%, depending on the specific tasks involved. Admiral Supreme Bureaucrat Maximum consulted one of his many data pads with the expression of someone whose entire worldview was being quietly dismantled by statistics. You're telling me that our conquest strategy is economically inefficient? Spectacularly so, Dr. Chen Wei-Ming confirmed, stepping into the camera's view. Your current system requires massive military expenditures to maintain occupation forces, enormous administrative overhead to manage unwilling populations, and constant resource allocation for suppressing resistance movements. Meanwhile, a voluntary cooperation model requires minimal oversight, produces higher output, and actually generates surplus resources that can be reinvested in technological development. But conquest is supposed to demonstrate the superiority of the Galactic Empire. It's supposed to inspire fear and respect. Admiral, Dr. Cogsworth said gently, what inspires more respect? A military force that conquers worlds through superior firepower, or an organization that's so efficient and beneficial to work with that entire civilizations voluntarily request to join? Admiral Supreme Bureaucrat Maximum fell silent, which was apparently a significant event because several alarms began beeping on his command console. Sir, one of his subordinates reported nervously, your vital signs are indicating extreme philosophical distress. Should we call the medical unit? No, the Admiral said slowly. I think I'm having what humans would call an epiphany. Dr. Cogsworth, are you suggesting that we restructure the entire Galactic Empire as a employment agency? Well, not exactly an employment agency. Dr. Cogsworth considered the idea seriously. More like a galactic cooperative, a mutual benefit organization where different species contribute their unique capabilities in exchange for shared resources, technology, and cultural exchange opportunities. You mean like a company? The largest, most diverse company in the history of the universe, Albert added enthusiastically, with excellent benefits, opportunities for advancement, and a really comprehensive retirement plan. Admiral Supreme Bureaucrat Maximum stared at his datapads for several long minutes, apparently running calculations in his head. Finally, he looked up with the expression of someone who had just solved a mathematical problem that had been puzzling him for centuries. Dr. Cogsworth, what would be the administrative requirements for converting 847 invasion fleets into a galaxy-wide employment and cultural exchange program? Oh, that's easy, Doctor. Cogsworth pulled out her tablet and began typing rapidly. We'd need to establish intake centers for processing asylum applications, job placement services for matching skills with opportunities, cultural orientation programs for species integration, and a comprehensive benefits administration system. Albert could handle most of the computational requirements, and we'd need representatives from each species to help with the cultural translation issues. How long would this take to implement? For the full galactic network, about 6 months, assuming we get cooperation from all the major inhabited worlds. For Earth's portion, we could have the first 1,000,000 beings processed and employed within 6 weeks. Commander Vex Thallium looked around his bridge, trying to understand how his invasion had somehow transformed into a job interview. Sir, are we surrendering to the humans? Don't be ridiculous, Commander, Admiral Supreme Bureaucrat Maximum snapped. We're not surrendering. We're implementing a strategic paradigm shift toward mutually beneficial resource optimization. That sounds like surrendering with extra paperwork, Lieutenant Quill Nibbert observed quietly. It's not surrendering. It's the most successful military operation in galactic history. Instead of conquering one primitive world, we're establishing a galactic cooperative that will benefit every species in the known universe. Dr. Cogsworth smiled. Admiral, I think you're going to find that humans are very good at making everyone feel like winners, even when they've just completely rearranged the fundamental structure of your civilization. And that was how the largest invasion force in galactic history became the largest employment fair in universal history. How 12 million displaced military personnel became the most productive workforce the galaxy had ever seen, and how Earth became the unofficial capital of what would eventually be known as the Galactic Cooperative for Mutual Benefit and Really Excellent Coffee. The invasion fleets were systematically converted into construction and development teams. The Rigelians, with their natural talent for bureaucratic efficiency, became the backbone of the new administrative system. The crystal-based beings from Arcturus handled data processing and communication networks. The shapeshifters from the Vega system became the universe's most effective diplomatic corps. The machine-based intelligences from Proxima Centauri revolutionized manufacturing processes. Commander Vex Thallium found himself appointed as Director of Interspecies Administrative Coordination, a job that involved exactly the same skills he'd used as an invasion commander, but with significantly better working conditions and a dental plan that covered all 17 of his species' different types of teeth. Captain Zinglethorpe became the head of Earth's new Department of Galactic Cultural Integration, where he spent his days helping newly arrived beings navigate human customs like small talk, personal space, and the inexplicable human obsession with asking how you are without actually wanting a detailed answer. Dr. Cogsworth was appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Cooperative, a position that primarily involved explaining to confused aliens why humans insisted on putting milk in their tea, and why they found it hilarious when serious military officers tried to eat sandwiches with 17 fingers. The only real casualty of the entire event was the Galactic Department of Conquest, which was quietly dissolved and replaced with the Department of Mutually Beneficial Arrangements. The department's former employees were reassigned to various peaceful occupations, though many of them reported that their new jobs in customer service were significantly more stressful than their previous careers in interplanetary warfare. 6 months later, The galaxy's first Universal Economic Report showed productivity increases of over 400% compared to the previous conquest-based model. Unemployment had dropped to essentially zero across all inhabited worlds. Cultural exchange programs had led to unprecedented advances in art, science, and cuisine. The Galactic Cooperative's motto became, "Making the universe a better place, one species at a time." But perhaps most importantly, from humanity's perspective, they had finally found a solution to their chronic inability to get decent customer service. They had simply imported 12 million beings whose entire civilization was based on efficient administrative procedures and polite professional interactions. The universe had not become a better place through conquest, intimidation, or the traditional application of superior firepower. Instead, it had been revolutionized by tea, sympathy, and the uniquely human ability to treat even the most serious situations as opportunities for improvement, employment, and really excellent conversation. As Dr. Cogsworth noted in her final report to the United Nations, the invasion force came to subjugate Earth, but what they really needed was a good HR department and some decent coffee.